Okay, welcome to the third method in our Xero Manufacturing series. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use Xero to purchase in tracked inventory items, and we are also going to create a finished good that is a tracked inventory item in Xero. We will then use a process in between. Once we have done a assembly in our workshop, we will turn those tracked materials into that tracked finished good, and after that you can sell it whenever you like. We create the inventory items. What we want to do is we want to set up some extra accounts in our chart of accounts. So for the manufacturing process between the raw materials and the finished goods, what we're going to do is we're going to add an account. We're going to put it in our cost of sales section, and Xero calls that direct costs. We can slot it in somewhere here in the 300s is fine. So let's call it 399. And what we're going to say is we're going to say manufacturing costs, and we're going to say should be zero. The reason why is that once we're finished with our process, these manufacturing costs should disappear off the profit and loss. So I'm going to save that account now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our inventory. So we're going to create the first item. And this is going to be a bicycle frame. So we create our bicycle frame. We track this item. We're going to have that go to our inventory account. The cost of goods sold account. Essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to put in our manufacturing costs, and we can just put in a sales account if we sell it. Let's keep going through this now. Created our frame. Let's create our bicycle wheel, and we track this item as well, and we're going to put in our manufacturing costs, our sales account, and then we've got one more component, and that's our bicycle seat. Okay, so again, we're using the manufacturing costs. You'll see why we use that now as the middle account, and then we save that. So we've added our three components: the bicycle frame, the seat, and the wheel. Those are all tracked inventory items. As you can see, Xero's got quantity of 0. It's going to track quantity. What we need to do is we need to create one more, and that's going to be our finished bicycle. So we're going to call that the bicycle complete. Okay, and we put that in, and we need to select the cost of goods sold account. So this needs to be cost of goods sold. Our sales account will be sales. So the next step is to purchase some components in. Let's go ahead and buy in some of these components. So if we go to a purchase, and what we'll do next is we'll create a new bill, and we are going to buy in from our favorite supplier. So we're going to buy this in at the beginning of August, and let's buy in a bicycle frame. We're going to buy in a bicycle seat, and we're going to buy in a bicycle wheel. Let's find it, and there it is. So what we're going to do is let's buy in 5 wheels, and we're going to pay 200 for those. The bicycle seat we'll buy in 5, and for that we'll pay 250. And for the bicycle frame we're going to buy in 5, and we will pay 750 Rand for that. So that's our total bill. We'll have a quantity of 5, and obviously that'll allow us to build 5 bicycles. Well, we're going to need to bump that up. If we're going to build 5 bicycles, let's buy 10 wheels there. Great. Okay, so now what we'll find is that if we go have a look at some of our reports, we'll see the transactions happening. So if we go to the profit and loss in August, we'll have nothing because it's been treated like tracked inventory, which means that when we buy something, it goes straight to the balance sheet. And the balance sheet will have inventory here. It's got a total of 9,900. We've got some inventory left over from some previous transactions. So what we'll want to look at is a inventory report, which will give us a little bit more detail about what we've got in stock. So if we have a look at an inventory item, we'll go to a summary this time. And let's have a look at August. And what we can see here is we've got a few different items: the bicycle wheel, the complete. What I'd suggest is when using this report, tick everything that's got inventory quantity next to it. So if we update that, what you'll see is a little bit more detail now, and you can see that we purchased in 5 bicycle frames, 5 bicycle wheels, and 5 bicycle seats. And that our closing quantity, that is our inventory on hand, right now is 5, 10, and 5. Now what we need to do is we need to transform these materials into a finished good. So there's 2 ways we can do this. The first way is we can use production invoices. If we do a manufacturing assembly and we produce 3 complete bicycles on a given day, then what we'll do is we'll create a production invoice. So we'll go create a new sale, and we did the manufacturing on a given day. So let's create a production invoice. We did the manufacturing on the Friday, the 10th. It's very important to do this at the same time as you do your manufacturing. At the end of the day, when you've done your manufacturing, you need to do one of these invoices. If you don't, you won't be able to sell these bicycles that you've manufactured. So what we do is we take all the components that we used that day to do the manufacturing. We've got a bicycle seat, a bicycle frame, and a bicycle wheel. Now, we essentially are taking 3 bicycle frames, 3 bicycle seats out of raw materials, and we are taking 6 bicycle wheels. So Xero does let you know how many you've got on hand, and we're not using more than that. It won't let us. So these are the components that we've used in our manufacturing assembly today on the 10th of August, and we are going to approve that invoice. Now, we don't need to put in any prices here. This is essentially an exercise in transferring that value from the components into a finished good. We say approve, and what we need to have a look at now is what this has done in the system. It's reduced our inventory and it's moved that cost to the account that we specified. So if we go to the profit and loss account, what we'll see is that in August, we've got 4,200. That's essentially the total value of materials that were used in our manufacturing. But this account should be 0, and we're going to get rid of it in a second. If we go and have a look at our inventory items summary, what we will see is that our stock has essentially decreased. So if we go look at the quantities, what we will see is that we've essentially sold these items. So frame, wheel, and seat. So 3, 6, and 3. So these have essentially decreased. Now what we're going to go do is we're going to go bring these items back into stock as a complete bicycle. So we go and do a purchase. Xero allows us to use the same contact. So we can use the production invoice contact. It would be exactly the same day, so 10th of August. And what we're going to do now is we are going to bring in a complete bicycle. Now, what's really important is that we take the quantity as 3, and we take the total amount that we used in raw materials. Now, that was 4,200 Rand. We saw that, but it must be on a per unit basis. So there we go, there's our 1,400. Now, if you want to validate that, we can just double check it on the profit and loss. 4,200, and this is 4,200 divided by 3. So if we approve this invoice now, what will happen is it'll bring these bicycles back into inventory, and we will have 3 bicycles. We can go and have a look at that. So if we open up our report and we go to our inventory item summary, what we will see, let's update this. And what you can do is you can save this report as a custom report. So if we call it manufacturing what we can do is we can also make that the default view, just to avoid you having to tick those boxes each time. So now what we'll essentially see is that we've got a complete bicycle and we brought that in. So we brought in 3 and the total purchases was 4,200 in terms of value. So that's essentially the stock that we now have on hand to sell. What's important though is that if we go back to our purchase, that is essentially an awaiting payment purchase. Now that's not correct. We don't genuinely owe anyone that money. So we have to settle that purchase. Now what we do is on the same date as we did the manufacturing run, we pay that from the manufacturing cost to be capitalized. Now I won't be able to do that right now because I didn't tick that setting when I created the account. So let's go and finish off what we need to do. We go to manufacturing cost to be capitalized and we say enable payments, and that allows us to use this account for payments. And if we go back to our purchases, we can go back to the bill, and now what we can do is we can pay it off. So the aim of this is that we will settle the amount on our profit and loss, so that'll go back down to 0, because at the moment that is essentially what's outstanding. I'll just show you that quickly. So this amount here needs to go away, and we do that by paying off this bill against that account. So now that we've done that, that's essentially paid off, so we've got nothing outstanding. The purchases are flat. If I go back to my profit and loss and I refresh that screen, then what I will see is that my cost of goods sold has gone down to 0. So we bought in some raw materials and we took them to inventory. We did a manufacturing process which moved them across to a finished good, and we've got no sales or cost of goods sold on our profit and loss. If we go to our balance sheet, then what we will see is that we've got that inventory of 9,900, and what makes up that inventory is the components that are left over for the bicycle and the finished good. I'll just show you that one more time. Here we go. We've got 3 bicycles on hand, 2 bicycle frames, 4 bicycle wheels, 2 bicycle seats, and those are essentially a mix of finished goods and components on our balance sheet and available as inventory items now to sell. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you one other method you can use to manufacture if you don't like to use invoices. If we go back to our inventory, we will see what we've got on hand, and we've got a bicycle frame and a seat and a wheel like we saw in our other report. If we do another manufacturing run, let's say this time we're doing a manufacturing run on the Monday, and we want to use up these components, instead of doing an invoice, we can go into each component and do an inventory adjustment. We've got 2 left on hand. We're going to do a new adjustment, and this will be on the Monday, the 13th. We'll decrease the inventory by 2. The adjustment account, we can use that same account. Manufacturing cost should be 0. And I always find it good to put in a proper description in here, otherwise it can be a little bit hard to track back what you did in your adjustment. So bicycle frame, and we can say 2 used in manufacture. Okay, so we will review that adjustment and we will post that adjustment. So we've got rid of 2 bicycle frames in the manufacturing process. We will use 2 seats in the manufacturing process. Remember, this is all done on the same day, on the day that you do the manufacture. And we will put in 2 seats. And then lastly, we will use the 4 wheels that are remaining. So here are our 4 wheels. Let's do a new adjustment, down by 4, to manufacturing costs, and we will put this in as well. So it's very important that we know the bill of materials that we have in our manufacturing process. So keep good track of what you use in your process when you do a manufacture, and then you can come into Xero and reflect that against the raw materials. So we have now used up all of our raw materials, but we haven't created the finished bicycle. Let's have a look. We've got 0 quantity across all of our raw materials, but we've still only got 3 bicycles. what have we done so far? We've reduced our inventory and we've moved it to this manufacturing costs should be Xero account. So 2,800 is sitting there. We now need to go and do the final inventory adjustment. So if we go into the bicycle complete, we've got 3 on hand. The average cost is 1,400. And if we do a new adjustment, we are going to increase the quantity on the same day, the 13th, by 2 at 1,400. Now, it's important to know that that 1,400 isn't coming from this average cost. It is driven by that overall, but what's important is that you check your profit and loss, and I'll refresh the screen again, to see what your adjustment added up to. Now, 2,800 was the amount. That means that that is the total amount that I need to utilize. Of course, in this case, it is the same, and generally it will be if you process it straight away, but you want to make sure that you understand that this amount here needs to go down to 0. So if I go back and it's 1,400, adjusting to my manufacturing cost is the account that I'm going to use, and I'm going to say bicycle complete, let's say to manufactured. And that's fine. I'll review that adjustment. I'll post that adjustment. And now what I have is I have 5 bicycles on hand. So I've finished my manufacturing process using inventory adjustments. And if I go look at my profit and loss, what I'll see is that this number has gone down to 0. It's no longer on the report. And that is what I'm looking for once I'm finished my process. The next step would be to make a sale. Now, regardless of which method I've used, I can make a sale of the complete bicycle. So if I go to sales and I create a sale to my customer, and we'll create that sale by selling the complete bicycles. So I'm going to sell 4. You'll remember we manufactured 3 using the invoice method, 2 using the adjustment method in inventory. Doesn't make a difference. We've got 5 on hand and I'm going to sell 4 of those. We'll sell those bicycles for 5,000 each, and I will approve that sale. What we will see now is that on the profit and loss, I've got my sale, but importantly, I've got my cost of sale that's automatically brought through, and you can see that here. When you use this method, you can drill down to the cost of goods sold, and you can click on that customer, and it'll take you back to the original invoice that actually created that cost of goods sold. And that's one of the benefits of using this manufacturing method, whereby you manufacture in Xero on the same day that you manufacture in your workshop, and you turn those raw materials into a finished good that is tracked in Xero.